Okay, so I'm going to show you some of my comic books I got for Christmas for the year of 2016. Okay, first one I have to show you is the first issue of the X-Men. Of course, this came in a comic book bundle of 10, and I was pretty excited when I got it. And I haven't read it yet, but I will though. And I'm sure that pretty much if any first issue of a comic book, it has to be a good story, or else there wouldn't be any other issues after it, and the story might just be discontinued, and you don't want that. So, of course, first issues are always important, especially to the collectors. Okay, this next one I got in the bundle of comics. I'm not particularly a fan of, but I don't mind, and also my friends like it. Pokemon. Mewtwo Strikes Back #1. Okay, I don't have too much knowledge about the Pokemon, but my friends do, and I can understand my friends like it and stuff, but it just it's kind of not really as big a thing for me because I just like to follow the superheroes a lot better than anime. Don't get me wrong, anime is good, but I like to stick to superheroes. Next one is Ultraverse Solitaire. Of course, this one is by Malibu Comics. I've never really had anything owned by Malibu Comics before, but it should be interesting to read. And from looking at it, just from looking at it, I like the cover art with the girl and the gun kicking someone and stuff. Next one is Eclipse Comics Strike. I've never really had too many comics from Eclipse, but their comics, I would say, are they're okay. They're not as they're not nearly as big of a publishing company as, like, let's say, Marvel or DC, but you gotta give them some credit. Next one I really like is the Hardcore by Valiant. By Valiant. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Okay, the Hardcore is really neat because they had a bunch of those in the 90s. I have a couple issues of my own of the Hardcore, and I have to say, if you ever read them, I'm sure you might understand how it's kind of like it's kind of like a it's kind of like a military kind of comic, and cool all sorts of cool tanks and vehicles and ships and all sorts of battles take place on all sorts of battles take place on ground and stuff. But then again, those are my those are my comments about the hardcore. Next one I have is a free comic from Free Comic Book Day called Divergence. I've never read it before, but once I will, I'm sure it will be pretty good. Looks like it has something to do, looks like based on the cover, looks like it has something to do in space. But when I get a chance to read it, of course, I should be able to figure it out then. Next one is by Viz Select Comics, Fist of the North Star. I've never seen that one before, but I'm sure that one might be good, might not be as good. But then everybody's opinions of comics are different once they read them. Next one, of course, I was kind of a little upset and disappointed because I already had a copy of this already. It's the Beware the Batman with Teen Titans Go. I read that before from the copy I do already own, and it was pretty good, but there's other Batman comics I've read that I thought were kind of far better, if you kind of see what I'm saying. Next one, a Free Comic Book Day comic from 2015, the Comics Festival. Of course, in Free Comic Book Day, you always have those comics that are actually comic festivals. Comic festival comic books tend to be like a collection of stories, and they could be fun, they can be interesting, but it all depends on what the collection of the stories are. And the last one I got from the bundle is the Mighty Avengers Secret Invasion. It looks really cool. Probably gonna read that one first in the bundle because I don't know too much about the Secret Invasion, but I've started to do a little bit of research about it, and I'm sure that some of you kind of had some thoughts and feelings about that particular Marvel storyline, so yeah, I can accept any opinion from anybody, and I would not feel offended I would not feel offended at all. I got some comic books I got from a store in Lancaster called Fourth Wall Comics. My little brother was nice enough to buy these for me with his money. Amazing Fantasy SpiderMan. Of course, the Amazing Fantasies are pretty neat because those were believed to be some of the oldest Spider-Man stories around. And then again, I only have like maybe one or two already, but I'm sure once I read this particular Amazing Fantasy again, I should be happy with it. Next, I have the Uncanny XMen, the Onslaught of the Apocalypse. I've watched the Apocalypse movie, and if you watch the Apocalypse movie, I'm sure you have some thoughts and opinions about the Apocalypse movie, but I'm not talking about the Apocalypse movie. I'm talking about the comic books I got while I was with my brother at my grandma's house for Christmas. Back to business again. I have one last surprise I wanted to show you of what I got while I was visiting with my brother at my grandma's. This you're going to really like. The War Years of the Superman 1938 to 1945. I got it for only $6.99 if you can see that tag. It was, at first, very expensive, but the price has went down considerably once it's been, around in stores a while. Like, of course, most comic books and hardcover books of collections of comics and stuff, they go down over time. I'm sure you already know that. So, to conclude this video, I just wanted to say, please get a chance to subscribe to my channel, and feel free to put some comments below about the titles I've shown, or any knowledge or opinions you may have. Thank you, and have a nice day.